It's not about how you do. It's not about winning or losing. It's about noticing how everybody is showing up in the experience individually and collectively. And what information can you get from that that's going to help you work together when the stakes are higher.
Today, I am excited to welcome Alex Suchman to the show. Now, today's episode is pretty fun. We talk about games. We talk about continuous improvement games. And as you'll hear, Alex has got a lot of experience sort of using games to sort of facilitate learning about various continuous improvement aspects. So we kind of just jump in and talk a little bit about the role things like games can play in learning about continuous improvement. Then we get into a pretty interesting topic, talking about relational waste. So many of us are familiar with the classic 7 or 8 deadly wastes and so forth, but Alex is proposing a relational waste. And so we get into like, what is that? And then even kind of had a conversation about like, is it a result of some of the 7 or 8 waste, or is it a waste on its own? So it was pretty interesting to explore that. And then we then talk about like, well, okay, so this is what this thing called relational waste is. What do we do about it? And are there ways to sort of counter that? And then we kind of just get into some specific ideas of different games that we can play, and as continuous improvement leaders and practitioners. And I think you're going to enjoy this one. I had a lot of fun recording it. Show notes can be found over at gembapodcast.com. Just look for episode 611. Again, gembapodcast.com. Look for episode 611. Okay, enough for me. Let's get to the show. Alex, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Where are you calling in from?
I am in Washington, D.C., where it is a beautiful, warm fall day. Nice.
Been there a long time, or is that where you're from?
Yeah. I'm not from here originally, but I've been here since 2002. So
nice. Okay. That's a little bit.
23 years and more than half my life, which is really crazy.
Nice. Okay. Well, fantastic. All right. Well, Alex, you know how we like to get things going out of the gate. We like to start with our guest sharing a quote. So what do you got?
Yeah, this is a quote from a writer. He's originally a comedy writer, then turned into a political speech writer, Robert Orban. And he said, if you can laugh together, you can work together. And what I really like about it is it highlights one thing that I think is so often forgotten or neglected in the workplace, is that we're all humans and we all have very rich emotional experiences that don't stop just because we're at work for however many hours every day. And I think it's really important to try to make work a place where people and teams can experience positive emotions, whether it's joy or laughter or curiosity or creativity. So I really love that quote and believe if you can have shared moments of joy and laughter with people, you can accomplish pretty much anything.
I like that a lot. All right. Well, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself, Alex. Tell us about your background and how you first got involved in all this sort of continuous improvement stuff and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, I started my career actually in public health, so very different direction, and loved it. Loved the idea of, and from a public policy lens, of being able to look at programs and how to make an impact for a lot of people, how to improve. And I took a very systemic view of how health is so intricately connected to education and financial well-being and nutrition, communities. But what I started to realize as I moved up in my career and became much more aware of the guts of a company, that really what makes or breaks someone's experience at work, their ability to succeed, their desire to stay motivated in the job and stay in the job, is the culture. And a huge part of culture is the infrastructure, the processes, the tools, the equipment that's there, what relational structures are in place. And I saw that was really lacking, and that was causing a lot of the problems that I was experiencing, that my colleagues were experiencing, a lot of the growing pains of the company. So I ended up moving into organization development from being a researcher, because I felt like all these problems I was seeing, I could fix them. And I went through the project management certification, which is where I first learned some about lean, and fell in love with that level of problem solving. Is how do you make the experience of work on a day-to-day basis better? And for a number of years, it was more focused on the process and the systems. And then I started noticing that just about every problem somehow boils down to interpersonal dynamics. And that became the nut that I wanted to crack. So then I went out on my own as a consultant in 2017, doing operations management and organization development consulting, and then co-founded Barometer, my company now, in 2021. That's all about specifically looking at team dynamics and people dynamics and the social emotional experience of work and exploring that using play.
Nice.
And games.
Well, very good. Very good. So, well, this is going to be a fun episode. This is not maybe our typical direction that we go, but we're going to talk about games. So you mentioned games already in your intro there. So talk a little bit about your thoughts on playing games and how it relates to continuous improvement.
Yeah, at pretty much every single job, even in this day and age where there's so much that's automated and we're using technology and AI, at some point you have to interact with other people. It's a given.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, that is what the most complaints I hear from friends, from colleagues, from clients is friction with colleagues. And whether it's because of miscommunication or misunderstanding or not having clarity in roles and responsibilities or a process that's outdated that just causes problems and everybody just gets stressed about it. But there's not a lot of attention paid to how do you strategically look at those relationships between colleagues and how they interact and what assumptions we make and how self-aware people are and to how they actually show up versus how they think they show up. And games are a really amazing way for looking at those things objectively and then for finding ways to fix it. So let's say you and I work together. You're a much more detailed-oriented person than I am. I like big picture, creative thinking. We're both really great at our jobs, but whenever we have meetings, it's like we're speaking another language. We're just talking past each other. You're not getting the answers that you want from me and vice versa. Well, if we play a game together and we can recognize that that's the root of that problem, that's the root cause, then we can look at, well, what's the way that I can communicate that would be more successful for you? And what are things, maybe I can ask a question differently, I can give a response differently. So games act as this almost like a controlled experiment environment where there's very low stakes. You can strip out the need for subject matter expertise or for formal roles and responsibilities and power dynamics and just focus on how humans interact with each other and how we can adapt the way we feel, the way we think, the way that we instinctually act to get a better shared outcome.
Got it. So something that I know you're focused on is something called relational waste. What is that all about?
Yeah, those are all of the little annoyances that come up that cause friction between people. So let's say the weekly stand-up meeting is really unfocused and everybody is cranky at the end. And then nobody, if we're cranky, we just had this meeting and then you ask me for a question, I might snap at you because we're both cranky and we're frustrated because that meeting didn't go well. What are all of the little things that have to do with processes, with systems in the workplace, with just misunderstandings because of different personalities and different communication styles that cause that waste time, that suck away motivation and morale, that cause quality issues, that cause rework, and look at what those sources are of the tension and get rid of them. And it's pretty surprising how even people, we've worked with many, many teams, people who think that they just don't like each other and cannot work together, find once you discover the root of what's causing that, it's often something that is completely addressable. It's everybody's frustrated because there's a process that's outdated or because the manager isn't giving clear expectations. And so people feel like they're competing with each other because there's praise for good work is scarce and they're all clamoring for that. And so once you can address those issues, that relational friction goes away and it's a much more pleasant and motivating and rewarding work experience.
So I'm curious, do you see that the sort of relational waste being, I don't know how to frame it, the result of, if we think about our classic 7 waste and lean, right? Is relational waste, should it be the 9th one, or is it because of, over processing or whatever, we're frustrated? You know what I'm saying? Is the relational waste sort of an
Mm-hmm.
output of other wastes, or is it something in and of itself? Does that make sense? I don't even know if I'm
Yeah,
asking.
I think it can be both. I think sometimes it is a byproduct of another type of waste that's causing a frustration. And if you haven't recognized that it's, overproduction or something else, you're just annoyed at the person on the other side of it. That's
Right.
an element. But I do think often there's people you don't have clear communication channels in place. Some people prefer to talk over the phone, and some people prefer to use Slack or something asynchronous, and some people prefer to have face-to-face meetings, and messages just aren't getting through because people's different preferences are getting in the way, and that I think can be a problem on its own.
So like, what do you think about, like, as you were talking just about games and all the rest of it, I'm thinking about even my colleagues here at Gemba Academy, and we have, it's okay to, I'll call out my business partner, John Miller. He's like, he and I and Kevin, we started the company, right? And so we're very instrumental in what's going on around here. But John and I couldn't be more different. Like, he is, I would say he would be the first to admit, like, major introverted, right? Brilliant. I mean, probably the smartest person I've ever known. Brilliant. Creates all of our content, all the rest of it. And he used to be a consultant, so he can get up in front of people and do it. But he's got to work at it. Whereas I like people, right? And I can get energy from people and all the rest of it. So he and I are very, very different. And I'm wondering, like, from like a personality type perspective, like, how do you see that playing out? Where, like, John doesn't, I don't think he would get excited about a game because he's going to have to, sort of interact with other people, and he'd do it and be great at it probably, but he would have to work at it. So, like, how do you meet people like that where they are?
Yes. One thing that I shout from the rooftops is, when you're bringing a game into work, the goal should not be to have fun. Like, people aren't at work to have fun. If you want aspects of work to be fun, but the purpose of the game is either to get to know each other better, to come up with new ways of leveraging those differences and new ways of bringing out the best in people, to discover what people's pet peeves are so you can avoid them,
Mm-hmm.
to have a conversation about shared values or shared goals or shared priorities. So the game is a tool in search of a goal that's directly connected to outcomes and performance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think the mistake that a lot of people make when they try to bring a game in, whether it's purely for something social or if it's part of a learning or development experience, is they're still not telling people why are you doing this for this amount of time. Play
Mm-hmm.
is inherently vulnerable. You don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's uncomfortable for a lot of people, very understandably. So you have to make the case for why this is going to help people in their work, how it's going to alleviate a pain point or help continue to build on a strength that the team is already proud of.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we do in-person workshops here at our facility here in Texas, and we've got a number of different things we do in our workshops, but we have the big sort of PVC pipe game. Everybody's seen versions of it. We build little like football goalpost looking things, and it's, it's the classic. In the beginning, it's batch and it's all messed up and everything. And then by the end, this perfect one piece flow system going, and it's awesome and everybody wins and they're high fiving. But there is something about laying your hands on stuff and seeing it sort of transform and seeing the ideas kind of coming in, and they do it. Like, you can coach them along the way, but they're the ones that come up with the ideas. They're implementing them. And yeah, I've never seen anything better than that, as far as making, because the concepts, like, say, one piece flow, it's very counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would that be better? Why wouldn't batching be better? Right. And so, but you just, I don't know, let's do it. I don't need to explain it to you, because you won't really in your heart believe me. But once you do it, then, they get that tactile sort of involvement, right?
And we really, with our approach to playing games, we really bring in Kolb's experiential learning cycle, where you have the experience, and either during or after or both, it's, what was that like for you? Everybody shares what was going through your head in that experience. Some people might say, oh, that was really fun. I was really motivated to do really well. Some people might say, I found that really stressful because there was a timer component, and I was so acutely aware of the time ticking down. Some people might say, I just wanted to take control. It was annoying to have to listen to everybody's different perspectives. And just hearing what people's internal interpretation of it was, those are really important things to know about the people you work with. There's somebody whose brain totally gets hijacked when there's a timer component. And there's somebody who really has to fight the instinct to steamroll everybody else. And once you understand those, once you can talk about them, they're like invisible tripwires that all of a sudden come to the surface. And then you can talk about strategically how to leverage people's strengths, how to understand where sometimes these differences show up as conflict, as an individual, to say, oh, wow, somebody's interpreting my behavior as me being kind of a jerk. That's not how I want to come across at all. So that would motivate me to change the way I say something, or even to change my face or body language as we're doing that shared experience. So there's the game itself, but then there's the element of reflection of what can we learn about ourselves and each other as we're playing, and then how can we apply that into our work to do better. And often the game is a kind of a perfect metaphor for how you work together. There's so many different types of games and activities out there, and there's some where you have to make decisions collaboratively. There's some that have persuasion elements. There's a lot where you have to balance, give really detailed instructions to people, and there's imperfect information. I mean, all of these conditions happen every single day in the workplace. So being able to practice them and look at them from that angle is really helpful.
Yeah, I was just thinking about we've all probably done it over the years, like the how to draw a pig exercise, like give a piece of paper and say, draw a pig, and then hold it up, and then you give them the little standard work, and everybody has a perfect pig at the end, right? But it's a perfect example of like, hey, draw a pig, like, how hard can it be, right? Well, pretty hard, right? If you want to have
and when I say draw a pig, like your pig in your head is totally different than what I'm picturing in my head. And
yeah, for sure. I'm wondering, like, have you, and we all have, and so don't feel bad if you have, but have you ever had a situation to where, I don't know, like you were experimenting with a game or something like that, and it didn't work the way you thought it would, and like what you learned from it?
Oh yeah. And that's where I think the reflection piece, even if the game doesn't go the way you want, it's what happened during that experience? Why didn't it? And, maybe it's because this happened to me early on when I was facilitating games where I didn't do a good enough job explaining the instructions. So when we get to the game, they're all really frustrated because they know they're expected to do this thing, but I didn't make it really clear. But that's a really great opportunity to talk about, well, what do you need? What types of detail are most important when you're getting instructions or expectations? How do you like to receive them? Do you want them written first, and then we have a discussion? Do you want me to tell them to you all at once? Do we do it in pieces so you can sort of ask questions and interact with it as we go along? It's going to be a little bit different for everybody. So when things don't go perfectly, those are the richest learning opportunities.
Yeah.
Because it tells you something. Again, it's less about, this is something we have to remind teams all the time. It's not about how you do. It's not about winning or losing. It's about noticing how everybody is showing up in the experience individually and collectively. And what information can you get from that that's going to help you work together when the stakes are higher.
So like, can you think of like any games, like someone's listening right now and they're all fired up and like, I want to try something. Like, what do I do? Like, what are your sort of go-tos for people just getting started if they haven't been doing this sort of thing?
Yeah, there's a really quick, it's a game actually from the improv world, but it's amazing at starting all sorts of team conversations. It's called Count to 20. That's literally what you're doing in the game. Let's say there's 5 people. And you could do this in person, you could do this virtual. As a team, we have to count from 1 to 20, but only one person can say each number. You can't talk or gesture in any way except to say that number. You can't just go in the order that you're standing or sitting. And if 2 people say the same number at the same time, you have to start back at 1. So you really have to look at people's body language and their facial expressions and get a sense of people's pacing and rhythm. You have some teams where people are really not comfortable with silence. So everybody tries to do the number really quickly. So if I say, if we do 1, 2, and then 2 people jump right in and say 3, that keeps happening. So it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to back up a little bit and listen to each other and figure out what cues. And, some people, the longer the silence is, the more stressful it's going to be and the more likely 2 people are. So it's just a great way to explore people's risk aversion or risk tolerance, their sense of pacing, what types of nonverbal cues they look for, if any, what types of nonverbal cues you give off that you may or may not be aware of. And it takes 2 minutes and is a really meaningful experience.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Yeah. Well, maybe to wrap things up, I'm wondering if you have any sort of advice. We have a lot of people listening who are facilitators, or even if they're not, they have colleagues and they're all trying to practice continuous improvement. Like, what advice do you have for people who want to sort of, work games or this type of interactive activity into their learning environment?
Yeah, I joke, how all alcohol ads have that tagline, I have to say, drink responsibly. I think play needs to have the same warning. If you're bringing any type of games into the work, you have to do responsibly and really connect it to the values, the goals, the challenges that a team is having, and to set it up that way. One of the things my company did is we built this whole platform and database with different frameworks that help connect specific games to specific challenges. So if you have a bunch of new people and you're trying to form a sense of shared identity, you probably want to play a non-competitive, more collaborative and creative game. And so you can search and it'll give you a bunch of game ideas for that. If you're trying to work on clarity and communication, there's a bunch of games where you have to pay attention to details and you have to synthesize information from a bunch of people. And so picking a game that's going to have people interact in the way that you want them to focus on. Don't just pick a game that's really fun to play with your family and bring it into work, because it's a totally different context.
Yeah. Very good. Wow, this has been a fun conversation. I'm all excited about thinking about games now. So
check out our database. We have about 120 games, and it's free to access, and you can play them in person or virtually. It's
so how do people connect with you, and how do they find all the work that you're doing?
Yeah, our website, the company is called Barometer XP. So the website is called barometerxp.com, and you can find my contact information on there. You can also find, there's a little tab that says Play Concierge, and you can set up a free account in that database and look at our different frameworks and games. I post a lot on LinkedIn, so if you want to look me up on LinkedIn, there's all sorts of videos and game ideas. Nice.
Yeah, and we'll get everything linked up here in the show notes. Everybody kind of scroll down and then go connect with Alex and go start playing some games. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Thanks for listening. Whether you've been on the continuous improvement journey for many years, or perhaps you're just getting started, Gemba Academy is here to support you. And while we're best known for our more than 1,500 Lean and Six Sigma teaching and virtual tour videos, we also have a team of experienced Lean and Six Sigma practitioners available for one-on-one coaching, as well as a variety of Lean and Six Sigma certification options. To learn more and to schedule a demo, head on over to gembaacademy.com.